I remember it very clearly. It was so peaceful back then. The way the winds blew the softest breeze, the way the birds sung endlessly in the trees. It was all so easy. The day was growing old, but I had energy yet. I'd been working in the glade, the place for which my happiness rested. The waters of the land had a nurturing way to them. I rest at the shore of a pond adorned with lilies, giving life to the beautiful reeds and creatures around me. The water flows from a rock fall, trickling into the pond that I've spent much of my time recuperating within. I surprise myself by leaning over the water, peering into its reflection. Of course, I saw the reflection of the azure sky above me, and foremost, my own visage. It is naturally familiar to me, but at times I cannot help but study its telling traits. My brow, aligned with wrinkles. My eyes, tired but sincere. I think for a moment what she will say of it when we are reunited, and without any warning I smile, wholly. Without intention I stay here for a time, studying and admiring every detail in the world around me. The tiny wisps that flutter from flower to flower, the ripples in the water as I move. Before it has occurred to me, the sun has fallen and the moon has woken. Again I gaze into the reflection of the water, entranced by the stars above me. I lift my head to look at them. And though we are separate, I think of her, as I ask myself if she sees the same stars as I. It would be so easy to lose hold of this hope, but I have no intention of doing so. Perhaps it hasn't been easy, but this hardship will refine us. This punishment exists so that we may better ourselves. I know that no matter how far or long we are apart, when we're together again, we will be the guides that our children need to flourish. Because we suffered so that they won't need to. We learned so that they may start stronger. All that's left is to work for that day, the day where we will be forgiven. Once again, I drift into a slumber. In my rest, I think of our children, soon to be men of their own. Though I know better than to yearn in vain, I long for the chance for them to see their mother. I know all too well that it would wash her in glee to see them grown. I make frequent efforts to tell them tales of their mother, her virtues, wishes, and likeness, whilst ensuring I do not omit the things we had done together, the reason we are here. Men they soon will be, but children they are now. Our youngest takes such delight in hearing of her, and it only soothes me to talk of her to him. The other, however, is more concerned with himself. I encourage his desires to grow, but I grow weary that his short-sightedness may cause him to repeat our mistakes. I cannot help but fall in love with the potential for each of them. Both of them can become anyone or anything they wish. That is the gift of life to us, one that I had not underappreciated. It had become somewhat of a habit for me to drift off pondering these things late into the night. Of course, I had not forgotten my past, nor what it meant for my present. But the future is an opportunity for all to be better. As I sail in the ocean of dreams, I feel a heat. It is noticeable and mighty, but far. It warms me intensely, almost painfully. But as I begin to feel as though I will burn, I wake. My body is stiff, and my vision is blurry. As I rise, I find myself still in the pool I had settled in, The morning sun has risen above. However, the wildlife around me is absent and silent. I find myself unable to shake this indiscernible feeling. It is mostly foreign to me, but a part of it stings with lingering familiarity. A deep, unpleasant familiarity. I stand, drying myself slowly. Unable to shake this feeling, I seek the comfort of company. I move quietly through the glade. The feeling begins to grow, and whilst I move, I try my hardest to assuage my conscience. I stumble through the glade and reach the vast fields I had entrusted to my eldest, though I am faced by another aberrance. My son, who would usually be found diligently tending these very fields, is nowhere to be seen, and his field remains untended. Instinctively, I breathe in to call out his name, but for some reason find myself unable to speak. Now I begin to run, that uneasy feeling growing for the first time in many years into inexplicable panic. My heart begins to beat violently as I turn rapidly, looking for any signs of my sons. The fields, the glade, and the sky all blur together. I become dizzy, violently so. But in a moment, I hear a sound so inconceivable, so alien, so distinct, that I have to resist the urge to vomit. Without thinking, I race to the sound. Even now, I don't remember what I saw, heard, or felt on the way. I just remember a haze as I force myself to face this aberrance. But I do remember what I saw at the end. When I followed the sound, I came to the bottom bank of my son's field. I've been here many times, almost, in fact, every day. I would come to visit my youngest son as he worked. The love I have for him is paralleled only by anticipation in seeing him grow into his own identity. Yet he lies at the bottom of this field. As I see him limp and unmoving in front of me, I am forced to connect the sound to him. For reasons I am simply unable to fathom, it released a sound of terror. I stumble weakly over to him, intent on waking him. I take his arm in my hand and pull him over to face me. As I kneel at his side, his skin is warm, but his limbs are heavy. I lift him off the ground somewhat, resting his shoulders and head on my lap. But as I do this, I am tackled by a strange sensation. Something hot has found its way onto my right hand. I lift it from his head to examine, and I am silent as I see this thick, red liquid coat my hand. Never before have I seen this, but without word or reason I understand what it implies. My hand begins to shake as the substance drips off my hand and onto my son's forehead. His golden eyes are wide and vacuous, unreactive to the crimson liquid. My breath begins to grow short and shallow. A powerful tension begins to grow in my head. I struggle to breathe as my vision blurs. And for reasons I cannot conjure, my eyes begin to tear up. I heave as I glide my soaked fingers across his face, trying my best to evoke a response, but he does not move. I do not know why. I lay there with him in my arms, struggling to understand why he bears no signs of life, and furthermore, why my body is in such agony in response to it. I capitulate, allowing this revolting feeling to take hold of me. I scream into his body as the tears fall heavily from my eyes. As they open again, I see the thick, red liquid pooling beneath him. A rage begins to boil within me. Why does my body seem to understand what has happened, while my mind remains ignorant? I stay there with him, hoping that with time I would understand. Days passed. Weeks passed. I did not move. And the answer never came. Eventually, when I could bear to think no longer, I offered my final word to him. The only word I could think of. It was his name. I released my hold of him and said,